I remember the exact second the room went quiet, how the silence wasn't empty, just crowded with judgment. Me phone vibrated once. A clean, polite buzz. Mother's Day expected a card. Emoji maybe, a passive-aggressive blessing instead. I got an invoice. $347,000. Itemized. Diapers, piano lessons, private tutors I never asked for. Interest calculated. A caption at the bottom, bolded like a verdict, the cost of raising a disappointment. She sent it to the entire family thread, all 48 of FEMA public execution disguised as accounting. I didn't cry, didn't type a, stared at the total and felt something precise click into place, like a lock finally finding its key. She wanted a spectacle, she'd get one, just not the kind she could control. It wasn't always like this. That's the lie people tell themselves. She's always been cruel because it makes the ending easier. The truth is messier. The truth is she once kissed my scraped knees and stayed up past midnight sewing my costumes by hand. The truth is she taught me how to balance a checkbook and how to keep my voice steady when someone tries to make you small. The first betrayal doesn't announce itself, it whispers, it tests your boundaries and watches what you do. It started years ago. After my father died, the house became choir. Her love turned conditional praise, came with footnotes, affection, came with interest rates. She learned to translate her tone the way people learn weather clouds meant storms were coming. When I chose a career, she couldn't brag about at brunch. The disappointment hardened when I married someone she couldn't manipulate. It curdled when I divorced and survived without crawling back. It calcified into something sharp. But even then, I didn't expect a bill not like that, not on a day designed for roses, and forgiveness not sent to 48 witnesses. I scrolled through the reactions like a coroner reads a report. Shock, emojisilence, a few nervous jokes that evaporated when she replied with another screenshot, my childhood grades, circled in red, annotated like evidence. She wanted the family to see me the way she did a failed investment, a bad return. I set my phone face down and made tea. I counted my breaths. I remembered what she taught me. Never move when you're emotional. Wait until you're inevitable. I didn't block Harry archive. The chatty started collecting. People think revenge is loud. It isn't. It's quietized paperwork. It's patience. I requested records, bank statement, sold email. Sigh called the accountant she fired in a tantrum and listened while he talked himself into honesty, found the trust she'd mentioned once, years ago. As a threat, everything I have goes to those who deserve it. I deserved clarity. Patterns emerged, transfers, disguised as gifts, loans forgiven for siblings who learned to smile at the right moments, a ledger of favoritism that made my invoice feel less personal and more procedural. I didn't argue, it documented. I spoke to a lawyer who didn't flinch when I showed him the bill. He smiled. The way surgeons do before cutting. This is useful, he said. She made it public. He explained leverage like a bedtime story, defamation, emotional distress, tax implications of gifts framed as loans, the elegance of timing. I went home and selected a photo. The photo wasn't dramatic, no blood, no tears, just a document, flat on my kitchen table. Shot in morning light, a notarized statement, the trust me name, a date from 3 years ago, the year she told everyone she'd written me out. I hadn't known she'd never told me, but there it was, signed in the tidy hand she used for threats, an irrevocable clause. She'd forgotten, a contingency she'd overlooked while busy being cruel. The photo included nothing else, no capciono, explanations, proof. I sent it to the same thread, 48 people, one image. Then I put my phone down and ate breakfast. By noon, the thread was a graveyard. On by 1, they blocked her. 47 names disappeared like doors slamming shut, not because they loved me, don't romanticize it, but because they recognized a losing bet. She called didn't answer. She texted paragraphs, accusations, revisions of history. She demanded I take the photo down. She reminded me of sacrifices. She threatened to sue. I let the lawyer reply in sentence, any further contact will be documented. That night, I slept like someone who had returned something heavy they'd been carrying for years. The next morning, the 48th name lit up my screen. Grandma. She never liked the noise she liked receipts he raised my mother during a war she understood economies of pain. Come by, she said no emojis, no questions. Her house smelled like lemon polish, and secret she poured tea and slid a folder across the table inside were copies of wills, amendments, handwritten notes, timeline that didn't flatter my mother. She's been borrowing against things she doesn't own, Grandma said, lying about it. I felt a chill that wasn't fear, it was accuracy. Grandma had already called her attorney already, frozen accounts already scheduled, a family meeting without my mother already prepared, a letter explaining why. She embarrassed you publicly, Grandma continued. Don't tolerate bullies, not even the ones I raised. That was the worst thing. She did not yelling, not shaming, cutting my mother off from the currency she valued most, control. The meeting happened without drama. 47 relatives in a rented room, sipping coffee they paid for themselves. Grandma spoke calm, thorough. She distributed copies, facts, did the work. My mother wasn't there to interrupt. She wasn't there to rewrite, wasn't there at all. By the time she realized what was happening, the decisions were already made. Trustees replace conditions, revised access revoked. She called me that. Neither voice was Smalley, almost didn't recognize it. I was trying to teach you responsibility, she said. I imagined the invoice, again the bolded insult the audience. I learned, I replied, and that was true. We met weeks later, in a cafe she used to avoid because the chairs were uncomfortable and the waitstaff didn't bend. She sat stiffly, arrived on time. She tried to apologize, not for the bill, for the reaction to the bill, for how people misunderstood her intentions. I let her finish. Then I slid an envelope across the table. Inside was a check, $347,000, my handwriting on the memo line, paid in full. Her mouth open, closed. I don't owe you, I said softly, but I don't want to owe you anything. I stood before she could speak. The door chimed behind me like punctuation. Now, when I think about Mother's Day, I don't think about flowers. I think about ledgers, about how love turns poisonous when it keeps score, about how power dissolves when exposed to light. I didn't destroy Hiri, didn't need to. I let her see herself reflected by 48 witnesses and one photo she couldn't argue with. I learned what she taught me, in the end. Keep your records clean, keep your voice steady, and when someone tries to make you small, don't scream. Send proof.